So, hi, I'm Tyler from Raw,
I'm Tom. I'm Deputy News Editor for the Boar.
and we're here to interview Elijah here, who is running for president in the upcoming SU spring elections. Hello, Elijah. Thank you for joining us and making time today.
Hi, Tyler and Tom. Thank you.
I'm going to be taking the first question. So, first off, what are your key priorities as president if you were to be elected?
So, my key priorities, if I was to be elected as a president, like one of my major priorities, which also was my priority as the vice president for postgraduates, is cost of living and prices. And I think I mentioned in the hustings, which people found funny as well, but I said me and roots cannot coexist because I think we are charging a fortune to our students to buy the basic stuff as well. And all the outlets on campus, like whether the SU owned outlets or the university owned outlets, they are priced quite highly. And that's one of my major priorities because if you have an outlet, because someone gave me an argument like students should make their own lunch or something. But why do you then have outlets on campus? Obviously, they're aimed at students. They are for student population. So you need to price them according to a student's budget, like what they could afford. And I think there should be like subsidized meals and everything around that. Second priority of mine, I won't rank them. Sorry, I just said second. I won't rank them because I think like all the priorities are like similarly important to me. So it's around student voice. I want ev like I could promise a lot of things around, like or claim things which university is already doing or want to do. I could promise those and um but I think first and foremost we need to start from, like as I said, charity begins at home. We need to start from our home, which is Students' Union, and we need to make it um productive, and we need to make it the primary and the only advocate of student voice. And when I want SU to be a place when a student walks in, they know that they own the place. Like a student, any student when he or she comes in or they come in, they realize that like this is their place. Everyone in there is like answerable to them, like all the student officers and everyone. So that's a union. It shouldn't be a corporation. Sorry, I took a long while. There's like other priorities as well. I could go into that, but I think you asked about main ones.
Okay, that's perfect. So you've touched upon your priorities, but what do you think makes you stand out from the other presidential candidates in the election?
Well, to be honest, that's like kind of a question which um I I don't want to try to make myself stand out above the other candidates. I just want to tell what I am, like not comparison with other candidates because um I think for me the ultimate my me wanting to run for president, it only stems from my dream to make the student union a proper union. So I came from a country where there's no student unions. The concept of student union is not existent. We have been in like military rules and everything. And I could see the importance of students' union here, like how a body like students' union could make a change, could empower students. But unfortunately, we are kind of moving towards being a corporation than to be a union. And I really want this union to be the union which is which is a proper union, like which is there for student voice and representation, not to just run some outlets or something. And I think what makes me kind of different is that I would say I'm not kind of afraid. I'm not afraid of dreaming big. I'm not afraid of standing up for students. I'm not afraid of challenging the status quo. I'm not afraid of change. So I think that's one thing I want to do, and I think like the president and even the vice president, and that's been my argument all along, that as the vice president for postgraduates, I didn't apply for this job. I didn't have an interview. No one interviewed me. I didn't submit my CV. I was elected by students. I was put in this position by students, and I am answerable to students and students alone. So they elected me. I'm answerable to them. That's something which I strongly believe.
Thank you. And I guess the next question we have up is going back a bit, but what do you think is the biggest issue that's facing Warwick students right now, and how would you plan to tackle it?
Cost is the biggest issue, I would say. The bus service, everything on campus. I'm glad you don't need to pay for breathing on campus. Um, but I think everything is very costly to like survive as a student on campus, and we could I believe we could really improve it because the only way to make profit is not by increasing the price. If you decrease the price, you would get more footfall, more people would like buy stuff and like eat at your shop or something. So I don't know why some people don't understand that, like they only need to raise the price to make it worth it. If you raise the price too much, sometimes you will just lose your customers and you would just incur a loss. I think I have already in my current position, I have talked to university, pushed hard on making them realize that Roots grocery store, I like compared a market basket from like different stores around like the chains. Then the same products, I got the prices from Roots grocery store. I compared them. I presented it to university, saying them that this is kind of extortion. So I'm very glad that university wants to listen to students. So they are really looking into that, and I'm very hopeful that you would soon see a very good change in that. And other things around cost is like, like the the bus service, the bus providers, they get a lot of business from our students. And I think it's about time we put the demands of our students in front of them because like in a business or like a customer, they need to listen to their customers. Like it's a two-way street, it's not one way. And it's been so long that our students' concerns haven't been heard in a proper way and not addressed.
Okay, perfect. So you've touched upon this a lot with you mentioning the cost of living, but how would you help? Is there other ways as well you would help create a more inclusive and accessible SU, especially for students from marginalized groups and lower income backgrounds?
Yeah, I think one of my main things which I want to achieve is to make the SU go out rather than waiting for students to come in, and a more open door policy, a more open SU, where, as I said in the like in the first question, that I want the SU to be a place when a student enters, they realize that they own the place, and that's true for like every student from every community, marginalized communities, um, minorities, anyone that's I want it to be true for anyone that they realize when they step into the building that okay, it's their union, they are the boss here. And my plan is to actively reach out to students. Like Gibbet Hill campus, we have no representation there. Why can't we have a room there? And we have 7 FTOs. We have 5 weeks, working weeks in a day. Sorry, 5 working days in a week. I said 5 working weeks in a day. Sorry. So we have like 5 working days in a week. Why can't we like have one full-time officer sit in Gibbet Hill campus every other day, like alternate that? And I tried to reach out to on my own, like people at Gibbet Hill campus, and trying to get myself put in Gibbet Hill like two days of the week, so I could like listen to postgraduates there. So I think just being proactive, um, trying to go out to students rather than waiting for them to come in, being more welcoming, and also also realize what are the challenges communities are facing. So for postgraduates, I would tell you, during Christmas break, the campus was quiet, like almost the campus looked dead. And realized that there are still postgraduate students who are still here on campus, or international students who have nowhere to go on Christmas. So I ran some events for them until the day of Christmas, which kind of I got like a, a majority of people who were on campus. They showed up until Christmas. No one else was there. Those people, some of them had their birthdays, which made me really happy that they had someone to be with on their birthdays. Um, Also, I have been working towards a series of events which you might have heard about, neurodiversity in academia, and like a neurodiverse student's handbook to university life, and I'm like co-creating it with different people on campus, which also entails bringing alpacas on campus as well. So I think that's about it, that like you proactively try to reach out to those communities and just don't wait for them to come to you when when they're facing any issues.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I guess also on another question to ask is, what do you think makes you the correct candidate then to represent Warwick SU on a national level? For example, at like the NUS conferences and such.
Yeah, so I think for anyone to be the right candidate to promote Warwick SU or to represent Warwick SU at a national level, I'm I think they should represent for anyone, not only me, anyone who is elected and becomes the president and represents Warwick SU, they should represent Warwick students and their concerns and what they want. And I think it's certainly, I don't think it as, like as a career opportunity, this president thing. I think it more of an opportunity to make some change and to carry forward some good changes for students. So I think for me, I have already there's an issue which I'm currently working on until I booked my leave for the campaigning. So I was working for international students and like the visa threshold, like for a sponsored job, which is quite discriminatory. So I realized that our students, the international students especially, they pay like three times of what a home student pays. And when they go out in the market to get a job, they are automatically put on a disadvantage just because they don't have a visa and they don't get a job. So I in the Russell Group Student Union first meeting, which was in Durham, I helped them shape this in one of their main manifesto points, that like the visa threshold for salary, like the floor they have set to get a sponsored job, is unfair. So that's one of the RGSU's manifesto points as well. So I think I did a good job there, I guess. Also, I have lobbied with MPs, the local MPs, and and the university as well, because obviously university also wants to provide better opportunities for students to retain more students. So I think I have been working on multiple fronts, and hopefully by the end of this year, we would have a strong voice in terms of that, raising that at a national level.
Great. You touched upon this slightly already, but how will you seek to improve transport options for students, especially those living off?
Sorry,
Um,
especially those who.
how will you seek to improve transport options for students, especially those living off campus?
Yeah, so one of my things which I wanted to implement this year, well, it was like kind of not kind of blocked, but I still look forward to pursue that. I wanted to have a cycle scheme for students. I know there are like cycle services on campus, but they cost you a fortune. Like, like if you have their app and get it for an hour, it costs you £7. So I wanted university to make it sustainable, have a system for SU to, like to rent out bicycles to students for like a term time, and like cost them like less than £10 for a whole term. So they don't have to buy cycles, but you have a system for them to, like for commute and everything. Especially international students, when they come here, they don't have any means of commute. Um, Second is the buses, as I touched upon it earlier, that we need to sit and talk with the bus service providers in a very kind of assertive way because we give them a lot of business. So we need to tell them to meet the needs of our students, which currently are not being met. Um, Second is I want to for I'm I'm not in favor of like unsustainable transport modes. I prefer to make it more sustainable, hence why my cycle scheme. But still, I think there are some students who genuinely might benefit from parking on campus, for instance, and it's so expensive. Like, like it's really expensive. So I would push towards that as well because I have been to universities where it's like at during evening it's like free for their students or something like that, and ours is I think like £9 a day or something. So for students, and it's like if you want to be more sustainable, so this is my belief. I'm I'm all for sustainability. I want to make sure that we follow all the sustainable practices and everything. But the way to make a change is to provide a better alternative, not to just higher the price of the existing things. So, like I think we need to provide better alternatives to make transport more sustainable. But we shouldn't be like just increasing prices and telling that we are doing this because it's sustainable. That's not true.
I guess that actually links really well into my next question, which is, I mean, how would you continue to help achieve these sustainability goals on campus? I know you elaborated a bit just now, but perhaps it's just a tiny bit more.
So sustainability goals, I have seen a lot of plastic cups on campus during the Wednesdays and Sundays nights, Saturday nights, and circling and everything. Um, I also had concerns over the big screen in Piazza, which is like live throughout the night, and no one is really looking at it. So I think there's like such small changes which you could make to which would have like a huge impact, and we should be we should always be pushing for that, and there's like no stop to like pushing for sustainability because it's a continuous effort. You always need to make it better and better and better. I also had great interest in the Warwick allotment as well. I wanted SU to make it, like to push it more to make our students, like make use of that, like sustainable kind of, like grow, like having. I had a concept which I was looking forward to. We might have like like some allotments with kitchen gardens for students, kind of like growing your own. It would be like a not only like a sustainable activity, also a well-being activity. Like imagine like our students, like they have an opportunity to have like a small kitchen garden where they could have like a community as well. They meet people, they do like an activity which is sustainable as well. And it could be as simple as just growing your own coriander or mint like somewhere on campus. But it's just the small things I think which sometimes make a big impact than we think.
Okay, so our next question is, how would you approach calls for demilitarization on campus? Would you consider working on projects such as the ethical assurance framework that the SU for full-time officers have focused on this year as a priority?
Absolutely. I think I'm very proud to say that I have been very pro students who protested on these things, and I think that's the first that's the thing which differentiates a sane person and a educated person from someone who has like kind of known um how to phrase it better, sorry. So I said it in hustings as well. Like some people told me that, oh, this email thing, it doesn't impact our students directly, so we shouldn't care about it. We should care more about other stuff. But my opinion on this is that anything, firstly, coming from a country where human rights are non-existent at the moment, I feel really deeply about wherever it happens in the world. But at the same time, I think if the people who are getting the best education in the world, who are allowed to the freedom of expression, and freedom of expression also creates freedom of thought. So if there's freedom of expression and freedom of thought, then you should raise your voice for people who don't have that privilege, for people who are being killed mercilessly in the world. Um, and I think any attempts to any attempts to like to choke the freedom of speech of our students, I think I would be the first one to retaliate, because I really am a strong believer that freedom of speech leads to, like freedom of thought and freedom of speech are linked, and if you can't speak freely, you can't think freely.
I guess our next question is also, as SU president, you are the students' leading representative to the vice chancellor. So, what do you think the relationship between the SU and the university should look like?
I think it should be a healthy relationship. I can't see why it can't be a healthy relationship, because at the end of the day, I believe what university wants to do is to like to understand what their students want and try to accommodate around that. And students at the end of the day want a better university experience as well. So I think there's a point where these things converge. But we need to be able to actively put students' demands in front of university and work with them to find out ways to meet them. And in my in my position as the VP postgrads, whenever I have gone to university to, you just need to present your argument, tell why students need it, make them think, put them in the students' shoes and make them think like students, and like they just help you, they support you in measures. I know there has been some instances around protests and everything, but I think the 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 solution to most of the things is just a dialogue, like just to let them know what students think, what our students want, and in a if it's put forward to them in a good way, I think there's nothing stopping us from achieving a change.
So, just to wrap up the interview now with one more question, how would you continue to support the SU drive to increase the institution's transparency?
I think we need to achieve a lot in terms of transparency. Like I ask a lot of students. So since I'm the VP of postgrads, I wanted to get the undergrad perspective as well. I knew postgrads didn't engage with SU. They don't know what goes on in SU. So I asked undergrad students. I thought they might be more engaged with SU. Like I asked random people, and a lot of people, my friends, like my flatmates, and they all told me, I asked one question: what do you think of SU? And they thought it just exists, it's just there, which isn't very positive. And I think most of it is down to because we are not very transparent in our objectives and what we want to achieve for students. And if we make a decision, we cannot clearly communicate why we made that decision. So I think there's a mountain to climb in terms of transparency. There's a lot we need to do. Um, and once, and this was one of the questions in the hustings as well, where they asked like, how would you mm, how would you try to increase the turnout for the voters? And I think like one way, which we are currently doing, like giving free coffee, it works, but it's like kind of, like putting a price to like a free coffee. But you need to make the system, make the organization, make the union. Sorry, I don't want to say organization because it's union. That's my first and foremost belief. And I think if you make it more transparent, if students, at the end of the day, if students, they can see that their elected representatives, if students want something to change or something to happen, and if it's transparent that they could see it through, like from their elected representatives to student union staff to university, like if they see through the process that it's happening, that like that students have a power, have a say, then they would be more engaged in the political process. They would like to vote more. They would know that their vote now has power because their vote can control who goes in that place. And runs their process, like they could see through it. So I think I'm not sure how I would carry on with the transparent thing, but I am sure that I would, if I had to start from scratch, I would start from scratch, but make the union a proper union. I don't see why it cannot be there, why we can't achieve that.
Well, thank you very much for your time today, Elijah, and best of luck with your campaign.
Yeah, thank you.